Hey moms, it's Nikimi, and welcome to the channel and space for single moms navigating motherhood. And as always, we do not bash the baby daddies because, well, we are here now. So I made a video yesterday in regards to things to think about before you become a mom, and this is part 2. If you are a mother, I would still like for you to stick around and chime in with your think piece. And so we're going to dive into the topic of you can still be or become a single mother while married and or after a divorce. We have been conditioned as women that marriage and love is a fairy tale. You know, we'll find our Prince Charming, he'll find our missing slipper, and we will get married, run off into the sunset, and live happily ever after. But that just simply is not true. Okay? The majority of women marry for love, while many, many men marry for convenience. Right? We will marry a man and fall in love with a man because of how he treats us. You know, the flowers, the date nights, the attention, the love, because we truly are in love with that man. While many men will marry for convenience. Okay, what a woman will do for them. How will a woman make their lives easier? Okay, is she wife material? That's where all of that came from. I want you guys to think about something. When you were little, did you ever hear young boys, teenage boys talk about they can't wait to get a girlfriend and grow up and get married and have children? Or was that more of the talk in the girl circle? Do you ever hear men mostly say, I want a wife that I can provide for, right? When they're talking about getting married, is it from a standpoint of the type of husband that they're going to be? Or does it stem from how the wife will benefit them? Okay, marriage looks good. In a corporate America, married men and married women are more respected than single men and single women. It looks good as far as business wise. It looks good to help enrich their lives. There are not enough of them that actually marry because they love a woman, they really want to start a family, and they are truly happy with themselves, right? So, but that's another conversation for another day, but I had to put that out there because it's going to all tie into it. So, you can become a single mom while you're married. First things first, look at your husband or your current partner and notice if he's making plans, if he's intentional about, if he says he wants kids and he wants to start a family, is he ensuring or making plans to ensure that you and the kids will be taken care of? Is he a planner? Because I can tell you, whenever you're intimate, we all know how kids get here. If you are doing things without protection, you're liable to get pregnant, right? That's just a matter of fact. But is he being intentional about what his family dynamic will look like? When he's talking about he wants to have children, does he actually have a plan in place? That's one of the main things you really need to be looking at. Okay? So what if when you get pregnant, because this happens, he's not as attentive to your needs, or he's not patient with your pregnancy brain fog, or he's not attending the doctor visits. He's not really showing you that he is excited to be a dad and is caring for not only the health of the unborn baby, but you as his wife or girlfriend or whatever, right? What if he doesn't want to be hands-on when the baby comes? You know, oftentimes when women stay at home or stay-at-home moms, Oftentimes when dad comes home, he's not really jumping right into father mode. He wants dinner and watch the game and then go to bed because he's got to get up and go to work the next day. What if he doesn't want to be the dad that takes up time with the children? Take them to t-ball or baseball or whatever the little sports are. Or, get up and show the young man how to cut the yard. Or what if he's not? What if he's a girl dad and he doesn't want to, play the tea party with the girls? What is his career like? Does he travel a lot currently for his career? Is he in the military? Will he be gone a lot? Because that's not necessarily a bad thing if he has to travel for work, right? He's got to provide, but that means you'll be stuck with the kids. And especially if he's in the military, he'll be deployed 9 months or more at a time. That's really something to think about. So although it's noble for him to be able to financially provide for you guys, especially if he's in high ranking in the military, I can tell you, I used to serve. A lot of those men cheat, and women too. Okay, that's when it opened my eyes to it's a totally different world. That's why you get the term work wife. You got to think about they're there with with the women 8-9 hours a day. Stuff happens. Do you trust the man that you're laying next to? So something to think about. What if you find out he's cheating on you while you're pregnant? There was a story on TikTok, this popular influencer, I guess, and she lived in Nashville, Tennessee, and they were out, I guess there was a bachelor party, and there was a guy getting married, so all of his buddies were there, and there was this one guy that was hitting on her. I mean, he was relentless in his pursuit, and he was really trying to get her and her homegirls to go back to his room, right? He wanted to play mommy and daddies with his clothes off. So the guy goes to the bathroom or something like that, and I'm probably paraphrasing the story, but anyways, the people in the at the party or whatever was like, hey, he's married, and she was like, no way, just baffled, jaw-dropping information, right? So she's a girl's girl. She did what she was supposed to do. She gets on TikTok, uses her platform to expose this man. Like, hey, girl, come get your man because he's out here wilding out. Unbeknownst to her and everyone else, they found the wife, and guess what? She's preggers. She's pregnant. So not only was it probably devastating for her to find out on a public platform with, I think the girl had hundreds of thousands or millions of followers. I don't remember. Your husband's cheating. You're carrying his child. I mean, that's dumpster dirty low. Like, what are you doing? But it happens. And that's just the case that we know about, right? So think about now, have you ever been cheated on by a boyfriend? Maybe not your current guy, but in the past. You know that will have you sliding down the wall. It will have you calling your friends, sobbing. It will have you locked up in your room, playing the same old sad love song on repeat for hours. It can really be devastating, to say the least. Well, if you're pregnant or you have children, you can't sit there and sob. You've got to soak it up, hun. You've got to get yourself together, because guess what? The kids still need. Children still have needs that you have to tend to. Okay, and if you're married, now you've got to either get a divorce or go to counseling and try to make it work, but the trust is gone. When you have a heartbreak, you can't focus a lot. Like when you're at work, all you're thinking about is, oh my God, how could he do this? Like it takes away your focus. The matters of the heart is something serious. Think about it. You know, we'll cut a friend off quick, but we'll forgive that man multiple times before we be like, I'm out. A lot of us, not all, but a lot. Right? When we're in love, we look through rose-colored glasses. We think that we can get through anything with this man. This is my man, my man, my man. You know, we can get through anything. We're going to ride or die. You know, we think as long as we're a good woman, right? If you are religious or was raised to, you know, like for me, I was raised as a Christian. If you're raised in the world of Christianity, you believe that, you know, the woman is supposed to be submissive to her husband. And as long as you pray and cover your man and be a devoted wife, that will carry you. And yes, it can. You know, yes, God can sustain your marriage. But guess what? God also gave you common sense. Use it. Use it. You know. How long have you guys been married or in a relationship? How old are you? Because age plays a major role here. You know, the adult human brain isn't fully developed until they say your mid to late 20s. That's your decision-making part. I think it's your frontal lobe. Right? So let's fast forward. You're married, you've got kids, and you find out he's cheating. He's having an affair. You know, he's having an affair with Barbara at the job. You're going to call him, hey, Shirley, this is Barbara, woman to woman, you know. What you going to do? He has an affair. Now you decide, nope, I'm out. You know, the distrust and the disloyalty is too much to bear, so I want a divorce. Okay, cool. But it's an ugly divorce. What if? It's an ugly divorce. Y'all got kids. Now your kids, because he's going to go be with the side piece. Now your kids got to go be around Barbara. And if Barbara knew about Shirley, you and Shirley, 9 times out of 10, she don't like you. What kind of love do you think she's going to have for your children? You know? And the toxic person in the relationship is always going to have some sob story for the new supply. Oh, I provided it. All she did was stay home and ate bums and did all of that. He's not going to tell the sleepless nights where you were up with the newborn and he was just snoring loudly, right? He's not going to tell the sacrifices that you made and how you gave him, the promises that he made and how you stayed devoted and true and faithful. Like none of that's ever going to come up, right? The toxic person is always going to have a good sob story and present themselves to be the hero. And the new supply, because now they're in love, so they've got their rose-colored glasses on and they're going to be like, oh, yeah, you know, life goes on, it happens. But what will you do? Because, see, you can't, in front of your kids, you can't go, you know, hey, kids, Barbara's a POS and so is your dad. And you can't do that with your kids. You cannot talk about your ex-husband in front or his new wife or woman or whatever in front of those kids. You just can't do it. You know? And if the kids are old enough and now especially boys, they tend to resent their fathers when they leave their mothers for another woman, especially if he's a mommy's boy. You still got to try to sugarcoat everything and help him to understand and say your dad loves you and, you know, he's a good dad and what we're going through, we still love you guys. Do you think you'll be able to handle that? And I'm not saying that any of this will happen, but the statistics on divorce rate proves otherwise. You see, women and men lie, but the numbers don't. So something to think about. Oh, and then you got the court system. You know, divorces can be nasty. In my line of work, I have clients, which are typically all females, and I I have a client that's a lawyer, and she says it, geez, the divorces are ugly, especially if there's assets to divide. It's a lot. The women hired private investigators and found out the worst, that he was spending money. He was making bonuses and spending money on his new girl, taking her all on trips. You think you're ready for that? Think about it. You're in that situation where you've given this man the best years of your life, and here comes Barbara reaping the benefits. Oh, and Barbara typically, not all the side chicks are ugly. Some of them are cute now, You're calling your friends, oh, look at her page. It's a hot mess. You know how we do. You got to really think about these things. And I'm not speaking negativity into your situation. I'm speaking reality. It's a realistic possibility. Something to think about. Now you got to deal with child support, visitation rights, especially if they're young. You may have to meet up in a Walmart and drop them off. When you think back when you first started and you was in love with that man, well, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't what I thought my life would be like. Now you've got to get back into the dating pool. And if you haven't been keeping up your body because you've pushed out several kids and you've been stressed out the entire marriage, now you've got to get yourself back together and still raise your kids. Now you got to worry about if your new man is going to come in and love your kids. It happens. So think about it. It's just like insurance with your car, or, homeowners insurance or life insurance or health insurance. We don't get those things hoping that something's going to happen, right? But we get them just in case. So whenever you go into, your marriage, and before you decide to have kids, you got to really think about that. And, you may think, well, that could happen anyway with or without kids. Yes, it can. But the difference with kids is you're tied to that man forever. Number one, through those kids. So you always got to deal with that man to some capacity. Even when the children are grown, once they get married, you got to see his face again in Barbara. When grandkids come, they're going to be calling him Papa and you, Mimi, or whatever the cute little nicknames we have now as, grandmothers and stuff. Just something to think about. So ask yourself, will you be ready for that? Could this potentially be your case? If you don't have kids and you're in a marriage, you'll slide down the wall. You'll go to your therapy. You'll get over it. And eventually you'll meet another guy. Or you may decide to stay single. But you're not going to be tied down. And most importantly, looking at it from the children's perspective. How will you help your kids get through the divorce? How will you help your kids manage their emotions when dad's always gone or never really present? Do you really want your daughter seeing you be married to a man that doesn't quite love you? Again, we're looking at this through the lens of kids. Is your partner right for your sons to mimic? Is he going to pour into you as a woman so that you can be a happy mother? Because there are cases like that. When I was young, we had a neighbor, Miss Natalie, and she was just, looking back now, I know that woman was cared for and taken care of. They had, I believe, 4 kids. All of her, I believe it was all girls. All of the girls were successful. Every last one of them was successful. I went and visited her, I want to say 27 years later to our old childhood home, and she was still just as vibrant. just as well taken care of, house paid off. You know, she was just, her aura screamed. There was so much love poured into her. And I remember her oldest daughter was a police officer at the time. And she would come home. She was the one that had all the cookies baked. You know, she was just, there was such a calmness and stillness about her. You know, and you could tell that her daughters were happy because one of them was my age. I went to high school with her. She's like a year older than me. And I just knew even back then, because I was raised by a single mom, that their household was different from mine. And now that I'm a woman and I look back, I know that Miss Natalie was cared for. I really do. I honestly believe that. And if her husband ever did any wild stuff, we never did know. Even in visiting her in an older age, she was still so vibrant and so calm and so soft-spoken. Her house was always in order. You know, she cooked for her kids. That was just really ideal. Her husband worked very, very, very hard because I was nosy when listening to conversations. I was eavesdropping when my mama was talking, you know, and my mom would always say that. You know, she was definitely the woman that, you know, this is the 80s now, you know, she would keep our house key for us, for me and my brother, in case we got locked out. Like, my mom trusted her. She was. I mean, that was one of the fewest women I've seen in my life where, you know, she was a married stay-at-home mom and her life seemed to be very fulfilled, you know. So, and you do have marriages that survive where there's just so much love between them that they just get it. There's another page on here called Raising Cades. I think it's CADES, D as in Delta, or CAIDES. And it's a black family. She just had their 10th child. When the good Lord says, be fruitful and multiply, I think that's the picture that he had in hand, because even them, her, just the way she says it, talks about her husband. There are instances where true love and marriage and motherhood can be fulfilling. So I do want to put that out there. But more often, that's the exception and not the norm. So you got to really think about that. You know, the type of partner that you have, and the type of woman that you are. What type of, you know, mom you want to be. You know, so pose the question, why do I want to be a mom? Really sit with that. And ask yourself, does it look good? Because as I said yesterday, just like what marriage isn't Marvin Gaye and lingerie, parenting isn't just baking cookies and dressing up in cute outfits and doing TikTok dances and, you know, combing their hair and pretty bows and mini-me's and shopping at Target with Starbucks in your hand and your Stanley cup. It's a lot of hard work. So you got to think about, have I been conditioned to be this way? Or is this something deep down that I know that I truly, truly want? And ask yourself, well, what do I have right now to offer my child or children? How will I enrich their lives? What type of stability can I provide? Have I experienced life enough so that I can teach them? Where am I going to raise my children? Watch part 1 if you haven't watched it. I talk about the nutrition, the school systems. Like, there's a lot to think about. And maybe, just maybe, you may want to start all over in a different country and raise your children. I don't really know. Okay? But that's something that I wanted to give you guys to think about. Just because you get married does not necessarily save you from single motherhood. It doesn't save you. And when things go wrong in your relationships, whether you're married or not, you know how it can impact our emotions. You know, we can have a whole attitude when that man doing wrong. I see it all the time when, you know, with women, when they pissed off at the husband, they just have a whole different attitude. And you guys know what I'm talking about when you're in love and that man is doing you right, baby. You're on your good foot for the day. You're smiling. Hey, girl. You going to work? Yes, I can help you. Yes, thank you. Thank you for calling. You know, when you're in love, it's just a different type of feeling. But then when you're sad or you're angry, it could just bring you down. But when you have kids, they're going to feel that. And now you have to look at your marriage. It's not just for you, it's also for your children. You know, and so many men will be like, man, my wife over the years let herself go. Yeah, because you're raising kids. Okay? Little Emma and Ethan and Jadarius and whoever else, whatever you name your babies these days, they didn't wear down your last nerve sometimes. You know, it happens. You know, you're trying to please everybody to where you don't pour into yourself. You forget how to pour into yourself. It's exhausting. It is exhausting. And especially if you don't have a village. And even that village, you may just, you know, watch your kids once a month. That's why the romantic piece of marriages can often go down drain, because even if both of you guys are, hands-on, you still got to be intentional about your date nights. You still have to be intentional about your quality time together. And oftentimes when you're tired and exhausted, especially if you're working, he's working, and y'all are raising a family, romance just goes out the door. There's no more, the Victoria's Secrets lingerie. Child, you got on your muumuus or your sweatshirts and all of that. You know, you're not putting on your lady's best to go to bed. You know, it's just a matter of fact. You know, you're not getting up, putting on your makeup all the time, and you don't just get the shop of you and get your, go to the beauty parlor or the nail parlor and things like that, because you've got so much to do. As your kids grow, there's things that they want to do. You know, in part one, I talked about after school activities, carpooling. It's a lot. So that's it for part 2. I'm going to make one more part, guys. And this is going to be specifically targeting a certain audience. So, yeah. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, you got this, mamas. I love you guys. Till next time.